The Artemis II crew returned to Earth transformed from how they departed. On April 10, 2026, 4 astronauts landed in the Pacific Ocean near San Diego after spending 10 days further from our planet than any human being had ever traveled. Reed Wiseman, Victor Glover, Christina Koch, and Jeremy Hansen had just finished a journey around the moon's hidden side, attaining a peak distance of 252,756 miles from home. They surpassed the record set by Apollo 13 in 1970. They took over 7,000 images of the lunar landscape. They watched the sun vanish behind the moon from a perspective never before witnessed. Yet the most subtly remarkable aspect of the mission was its impact on their bodies. 10 days in deep space is not a holiday. It is a systematic breakdown of everything your body assumes about existence. The alterations begin within hours. The instant the engines shut down and the crew entered orbit, gravity ceased, pulling their blood and fluids downward. On Earth, roughly 2 liters of fluid rest in your legs, held there by gravity. Remove gravity and that liquid rushes upward. The face swells, nasal passages block, the legs thin out. Astronauts call it puffy face, chicken legs. Within hours, the crew looked noticeably altered from their launch photos. Swollen cheeks, narrower eyes, stuffy noses. They weren't sick. Their bodies were simply adjusting to surroundings that were deceiving them. Your circulatory system evolved to pump blood uphill against gravity. Your heart, veins, valves, and muscles all fight gravity every second. Take gravity away, and the system readjusts. Your heart, having no hill to pump against, begins to shrink, not from illness, but efficiency. A smaller heart is sufficient when no resistance exists. On a 10-day mission, the reduction is modest. On a 6-month mission, it becomes a serious concern. The danger comes on the ground when that shrunken heart must suddenly pump against full Earth gravity again. Then there is the skeleton. Bone is living tissue constantly broken down and rebuilt by 2 opposing cells. Osteoclasts remove old bone, osteoblasts deposit new bone. On Earth, mechanical stress from standing and walking maintains the balance. That stress signals your bones to stay dense. In microgravity, the signal vanishes. Osteoclasts keep working, but osteoblasts slow down. The result is a loss of 1 to 1.5% of bone density per month. That rate equals what an osteoporosis patient loses in a year, compressed into 30 days. The Artemis II crew had a flywheel exercise device, but Orion is the size of a camper van. 2 hours of exercise in a van with 3 others while floating is not a gym workout. 10 days isn't enough for catastrophic bone loss, but cellular changes begin within 72 hours. And the crew wasn't just dealing with microgravity. They faced something astronauts are shielded from: radiation. This is where Artemis II differed from every crewed mission of the past 50 years. The IS orbits inside Earth's magnetosphere, a protective bubble. The Artemis II crew left that bubble. They flew through the Van Allen radiation belts and spent days exposed to galactic cosmic rays and solar particles, with nothing between them and those particles but the Orion capsule's walls. Orion carried 6 radiation sensors. Each crew member kept a personal dosimeter. The sun stayed quiet this time. The total dose for 10 days was roughly equivalent to a full-body CT scan. The concern isn't one CT scan, it's what this reveals about longer missions. Galactic cosmic rays include heavy ions that punch through shielding and cells. A single iron ion can tear through DNA like a bullet, shredding it in ways repair systems struggle to fix. Sometimes the cell survives with errors, and those errors accumulate over time. NASA designed an unusual experiment to fly alongside the crew. Mounted on Orion's wall were small devices containing living human bone marrow grown from the astronaut's own cells. The experiment was called Avatar. Scientists at Harvard's Wyss Institute took blood samples, extracted bone marrow stem cells, and grew them on organ-on-a-chip devices. These chips flew the same trajectory as their human donors, absorbing the same radiation and microgravity. Twin chips remained on Earth as controls. Bone marrow produces blood cells and platelets. Damage it and you compromise immunity, oxygen delivery, and clotting. Researchers will perform single-cell genetic sequencing to map gene changes during the flight. No one expects radiation sickness. The dose was too low. Researchers seek subtle molecular stress signatures, early indicators of accelerated aging, gene expression changes that might over longer missions become clinically significant. The Avatar chips offer a preview of deep space travel's future, written in the biology of 4 people who spent 10 days living in it. Meanwhile, other changes accumulated. Muscle atrophy begins fast. Without gravity, leg and lower back muscles start to wither. Astronauts can lose 20% of muscle mass in 5 to 11 days. The flywheel helped, but it weighed just 30 pounds. You don't get a squat rack in a spacecraft smaller than a studio apartment. Muscle fiber types change too. Slow twitch endurance fibers convert to fast twitch fibers. Your body rewrites its hardware for an environment where quick bursts matter more than endurance. Practical for floating, terrible for walking on Earth. Then there are the eyes. About a third of astronauts develop spaceflight-associated neuroocular syndrome. Fluid shifting to the head increases intracranial pressure, pushing on eyeballs, flattening them, swelling the optic nerve, causing farsightedness. Some astronauts need reading glasses in space. For a 10-day mission, full-blown SANS is unlikely, but the fluid shift is immediate. The crew tested an orthostatic intolerance garment on the return leg, designed to help maintain blood pressure during the transition back to gravity. When Orion hit the atmosphere at 25,000 MC, they endured a 6-minute communications blackout and up to 3.9 Gs. For bodies that spent 10 days without any gravitational load, that transition was violent. Imagine floating in a warm pool for 10 days, then being strapped to a chair and dropped from a cliff. The heart had to pump harder. Blood crashed back into legs. The balance system was overwhelmed. Standing after splashdown without assistance was difficult. The crew was extracted from Orion, transferred to a raft, and helicoptered to the John P. Murtha. The crew will spend weeks in post-flight rehabilitation. Muscles need to relearn fighting gravity. Hearts need to readjust pumping uphill. Bones need mechanical stress to signal rebuilding. Balance systems need to recalibrate to a world where down is fixed. This was 10 days. The list of changes is already long: muscle loss, bone loss, fluid shifts, cardiovascular deconditioning, balance confusion, cellular stress, potential signs of accelerated aging. All of it began within hours. NASA has plans for longer missions. Artemis IV aims for lunar surface stays in 2028. Mars missions would take 3 years round trip. 3 years of everything the Artemis II crew experienced in 10 days, magnified. Bone loss alone would be staggering. 18 months at 1% per month means losing a quarter of hip bone density. Radiation would accumulate far beyond a CT scan. Galactic cosmic rays don't take breaks. There is no magnetosphere between Earth and Mars. The Avatar experiment matters because of this timeline. If scientists identify molecular changes from 10 days, they can predict what 30 days, 90 days, 3 years would do. They can design countermeasures, drugs, supplements, shielding, exercise tailored to individual biology. Dr. Stephen Platts described spaceflight hazards with the acronym RIDGE: radiation, isolation, distance, gravity, environment. Every hazard was present during Artemis II. The crew participated in immune biomarker tests, pressing saliva onto paper booklets. Samples will reveal if deep space reactivated dormant viruses, a phenomenon seen on IS where herpes viruses flare up under stress. Spaceflight suppresses immunity. Wrist-worn devices tracked sleep patterns. In a capsule barely large enough for 4 people, sleep quality is not assured. 70% of astronauts report headaches in space, from fluid pressure and carbon dioxide. A headache you can't escape in a room you can't leave, while 250,000 miles from help is not just medical. It's psychological. The ARCA study tracked teamwork, performance, and stress. 4 people in an RV-sized space for 10 days, performing complex tasks while bodies silently reconfigure, creates mental pressure no training can fully replicate. Hansen had lived underground in a cave. It helped with confinement, not radiation. Coach spent 328 days on IS. 10 days was a sprint for her. For others, it was their first time feeling their own biology turn against their chosen environment. Food tastes different in space. Fluid shift congests sinuses, muting flavors. The Artemis II menu included tortillas, brisket, quiche, green beans, 5 hot sauces. Hot sauce wasn't indulgence, it was necessity. The crew rehydrated meals and heated them with a briefcase-sized warmer. Eating in weightlessness, where crumbs float into panels and liquids form wobbling spheres, is controlled chaos. In January 2026, astronaut Michael Finke suddenly lost speech for 20 minutes on IS. The incident ended his mission early. The Artemis II crew was farther from help. If a medical emergency occurred during the far side blackout, there was no rescue, no abort. The crew carried basic medical supplies, no surgeon. What returned to Earth on April 10th was 4 people who looked mostly like themselves. Puffy, unsteady, smiling in orange suits as they were lifted from the water. But beneath the surface, at the level of cells and fluids and bone and genes and circulation, they were measurably different from the 4 who launched 10 days earlier. We sent them to the moon and brought them back. The question Artemis II was really asking, the question all those experiments were designed to answer, is whether we can send people much farther for much longer and still bring them back whole. The data won't provide a final answer. It will provide a first draft. And in that draft, written in the biology of 4 astronauts who spent 10 days in the most hostile environment any human has entered in over 50 years, we might find the beginning of a map for everything that comes next.